The Afghanistan War, a 20-year conflict, was ignited by the horrific events of September 11, 2001. On that day, al-Qaeda terrorists attacked the United States, leaving a nation scarred. The attacks were a turning point in history. They revealed the dangerous reach of al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization operating under the protection of the Taliban in Afghanistan. The Taliban, an Islamic fundamentalist group, had ruled Afghanistan since 1996. The U.S., determined to dismantle al-Qaeda and prevent future attacks, demanded that the Taliban hand over Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind 9/11s. When the Taliban refused, the U.S., with international support, launched Operation Enduring Freedom in October 2001. The invasion aimed to remove the Taliban from power and deny al-Qaeda a safe haven. The U.S.-led coalition, supported by Afghan allies, acted swiftly. They conducted airstrikes against Taliban and al-Qaeda targets. Ground forces engaged in fierce battles with Taliban fighters. Within weeks, the Taliban regime crumbled, and its leaders were either killed, captured, or forced into hiding. The swift military campaign marked the beginning of the Afghanistan War. The Bonn Agreement, signed in December 2001, established a roadmap for a post-Taliban Afghanistan. Hamid Karzai, a Pashtun leader, was chosen to lead Afghanistan. The early years of the war, from 2001 to 2005, were marked by a sense of optimism. The Taliban had been overthrown. Al-Qaeda's presence in Afghanistan had been significantly weakened. The international community poured billions of dollars into reconstruction efforts. Schools and hospitals were built, roads and infrastructure were repaired. The Karzai government, with international support, focused on rebuilding the country. They drafted a new constitution, paving the way for democratic elections in 2004. Karzai's election as president in 2004 was a significant milestone. It marked the first democratic transfer of power in Afghanistan's history. The international community hailed it as a victory for democracy and a sign of progress. However, challenges remained. The Taliban, though weakened, were not eradicated. They regrouped in the mountainous border regions of Afghanistan and Pakistan, plotting their return. The insurgency began to gain momentum, launching sporadic attacks against coalition forces and the Afghan government. By 2006, the security situation in Afghanistan had deteriorated significantly. The Taliban, once a scattered force, had regrouped and launched a full-fledged insurgency. They exploited the porous border with Pakistan, finding safe haven and support across the Durand Line. The Taliban's tactics evolved. They engaged in suicide bombings, improvised explosive device attacks, and assassinations, targeting both coalition forces and Afghan civilians. The violence escalated dramatically, spreading to areas previously considered stable. The resurgence of the Taliban was fueled by a number of factors. They exploited local grievances, particularly among the Pashtun population who felt marginalized by the Karzai government. Corruption within the Afghan government and the perceived heavy-handedness of some coalition operations alienated segments of the population. The United States and its allies found themselves increasingly bogged down in a complex and brutal conflict. In 2009, U.S. President Barack Obama ordered a surge of 30,000 additional troops into Afghanistan, aiming to reverse the Taliban's momentum and create the conditions for a negotiated settlement. The surge, coupled with a change in military strategy that focused on protecting population centers and partnering with Afghan forces, achieved some tactical successes. However, it failed to deliver a decisive victory. By 2011, the Obama administration shifted its focus towards a gradual withdrawal of U.S. troops and a transition of security responsibilities to the Afghan National Security Forces, or ANSF. The phased withdrawal of U.S. and NATO troops began in 2011 with the goal of ending combat operations by the end of 2014. However, the withdrawal also raised concerns about the long-term viability of the Afghan government and the potential for the Taliban to exploit the security vacuum. Section 5. The Taliban's return. The post-2014 period witnessed a steady erosion of security in Afghanistan. The Taliban, sensing an opportunity, intensified their insurgency, exploiting the drawdown of international forces and the weaknesses of the Afghan government. They launched major offensives, capturing key districts and provinces and demonstrating their growing strength. The Afghan government, plagued by corruption, infighting, and a lack of capacity, struggled to maintain control. The United States, despite formally ending its combat mission in 2014, remained deeply involved in Afghanistan, providing billions of dollars in aid and military support to prop up the Afghan government. However, the Trump administration, seeking a way out of what it saw as an endless war, initiated direct talks with the Taliban in 2018. In 2020, the Trump administration signed an agreement with the Taliban that committed the United States to a complete withdrawal of its forces by May 2021. The withdrawal of U.S. forces in August 2021 led to the rapid collapse of the Afghan government and the Taliban's return to power. Section 6. A humanitarian catastrophe. The war in Afghanistan has had a devastating impact on the Afghan people. Decades of conflict have resulted in a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Millions of Afghans have been displaced, both internally and externally, seeking refuge from the violence. The war has shattered the country's infrastructure, crippled its economy, and left its people mired in poverty. The United Nations estimates that over 24 million Afghans, more than half the population, are in need of humanitarian assistance. The healthcare system, already fragile before the war, has been decimated. Malnutrition rates are among the highest in the world. The education system has been severely disrupted, depriving generations of children of an education. Section 7. Key players in a complex conflict. The war in Afghanistan has been a complex conflict with multiple actors and competing interests. Understanding the roles of the key players is crucial to comprehending the dynamics of the war and its aftermath. The United States, as the leading force behind the invasion and subsequent occupation of Afghanistan, has played a pivotal role in shaping the course of the war. Its initial objectives were to dismantle al-Qaeda, remove the Taliban from power, and prevent Afghanistan from becoming a safe haven for terrorism. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, joined the United States in its intervention in Afghanistan, marking the first time in its history that it invoked Article 5, its collective defense clause. NATO allies provided troops, equipment, and financial support to the war effort. The Afghan National Security Forces, tasked with providing security and stability in Afghanistan, has borne the brunt of the fighting against the Taliban and other insurgent groups. Trained and equipped by the United States and its allies, the ANSF has struggled with issues of corruption, attrition, and a lack of capacity. The Taliban, ousted from power in 2001, has waged a relentless insurgency against the Afghan government and international forces. Pakistan, Afghanistan's neighbor to the east, has played a complex and often controversial role in the war. The interplay between these actors, each with their own interests and agendas, has shaped the trajectory of the war in Afghanistan and continues to influence the country's future. Section 8. Controversies and criticisms. The war in Afghanistan has been marked by numerous controversies and criticisms, raising profound questions about the conduct of the war, its strategic goals, and its human cost. Civilian casualties have exacted a heavy toll on Afghan civilians. Airstrikes, night raids, and crossfire between warring parties have resulted in thousands of civilian deaths and injuries. The unintended killing of civilians has fueled resentment against the United States and its allies, undermining support for the war and complicating efforts to win hearts and minds. Drone strikes, particularly by the United States, have been highly controversial. While touted as a precise weapon system that minimizes civilian casualties, drone strikes have often resulted in the deaths of innocent people, including women and children. Allegations of torture and ill treatment of detainees by U.S. forces and their Afghan allies have tarnished the image of the United States and raised serious human rights concerns. Rampant corruption within the Afghan government has been a major impediment to progress in Afghanistan. Critics of the war have argued that the United States and its allies lacked a clear set of objectives in Afghanistan, leading to mission creep and a protracted conflict. Section 9. The long shadow of war. The war in Afghanistan, America's longest war, has cast a long shadow over the country and the region. After 2 decades of conflict, Afghanistan remains deeply unstable, facing a humanitarian crisis, a resurgent Taliban, and an uncertain future. The war's legacy is complex and multifaceted, with both enduring consequences and glimmers of hope. The war has had a profound impact on Afghanistan's social fabric. It has exacerbated ethnic tensions, fueled corruption, and undermined traditional power structures. The war has also led to a dramatic increase in the number of widows and orphans, as well as a generation of children who have grown up knowing nothing but conflict. Afghanistan remains one of the poorest countries in the world, with high levels of unemployment, poverty, and food insecurity. Despite the challenges, there are glimmers of hope, including the emergence of a nascent civil society and greater access to education. The war in Afghanistan serves as a cautionary tale about the limits of military intervention and the unintended consequences of foreign intervention.